Okay, ladies and gentlemen, recently I gave myself a name tag, basically calling myself the public historian. In other words, you could say a street historian. That's a bit like saying, countering the scholar type historians, the professors of history, and all the established norms of history. I try to go on the lines of history that is worth reviewing, and establishing the correct um, anecdotes of history, researching it without being commissioned by anyone, by being paid by nobody, just doing personal efforts to research histories, especially those that are controversial. And so for a long time, I've had this personal interest in the history of Jomo Kenyatta. And as you know, if you're interested in a particular historical figure, you have to start from many personal things surrounding that figure. So Jomo Kenyatta's name is just one of those many controversial pieces of history about him, which some have used as a laughing matter or a serious matter. So Jomo Kenyatta has been around even after his death in 1978. He still towers around the political space of Kenya. His place of burial, the Kenyatta Mausoleum, which is next to the National Assembly Parliament buildings, is quite frankly one of the most secure places in the country, in Kenya. It's untouchable. They only open that space when soldiers have to go in there and change the guard and all the official procedures when one shift finishes and then another shift starts working the next morning or evening or a couple of hours. So this particular site where Jomo Kenyatta was buried is intense. No photography is allowed, and nearly nothing is discussed about it in the public fora in terms of what should happen next after all these years since Jomo Kenyatta died. Should the site where he was buried be left the way it is, or should the state give the family of Jomo Kenyatta the go-ahead to maybe rebury him at his home or something like that? And if they're not interested, many have thought about things like making Jomo Kenyatta's place of burial a tourist attraction place. Because honestly, however good or bad this man was, it's a historical site. There's no denying that. And so any government that wishes to make an additional revenue into their kitty would perfectly decide to appoint the Kenyatta burial place as a tourist destination. It can be maintained without any fear of things falling apart, because in the same way they've maintained the place for all these years without tourists going there, as the same way they could do when, for example, they start allowing domestic and international tourists to tour the place. One of the ways to understand the history of Jomo Kenyatta is to know exactly why he was buried next to the parliament buildings. Some people even have doubts about whether he was buried there at all. Pilgrims would come in the form of heads of state or a very, very important person representing another country. And they would lay a wreath of flowers there, and the president would be in attendance. That's the Kenyan president, and other leaders, army generals and so on. Those would be the only types of pilgrims or a pilgrimage that takes place at the site where Jomo Kenyatta was buried, which is quite unfortunate because the man was an instrumental figure in Kenya's history. And so in the next page of my channel here, I am going to discuss more about the early life of Jomo Kenyatta. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. Thank you.